today we're gonna briefly go through kind of like the Korean mindset in order to understand why we communicate certain way, why we interact certain way, to give you a better understanding. And we'll talk about non-verbal cues, what is kind of considered important in Korean culture, and recognize culture norms and communications. And if you guys have interacted with Koreans yourselves and want to share a story with everybody, I think there'll be a wonderful opportunity, because this is a learning environment, right? And we can all be friends because we can always learn from each other. Sounds good? And we'll have some Q&A at the end. So have you guys already interacted with Koreans in the community, like directly, face to face? Yeah? Can I see a hand? Okay, most of you guys, okay. And am I the first Korean you see today for some of you? Yeah?
Not ever, but.
Okay, I'm honored. I mean, that's a lot of pressure. But just a caveat, I'm trying to generalize personalities and characteristics of 52 million South Koreans in my 51 slides. So it's gonna be coming from like a general sense of how we behave, how we talk, but obviously some Koreans may be like literally straight from Korea. Some Koreans might be more westernized because they have studied or lived in overseas. So your own personal interaction might be different from my lecture, right? So if it's completely different, please let me know. So I'm here to learn from you guys as well. So I'm just coming from very general, I'm generalizing our Korean culture. So like if you were to give a cultural training about America to a foreigner, like you're gonna have to generalize, like how would you even begin explaining America, right? So I'm coming from a place where I'm just gonna be generalizing like the most common characteristics, if that makes sense. Okay, let's talk about general Korean cultural characteristics. The teachings of Confucius, the Chinese philosopher, is deeply rooted in our culture. So respecting authority, respecting someone that's older than you especially. We always want to show respect, and that's why we bow to older person or someone with a higher hierarchy. And one thing very interesting about Korean culture is it's a very collectivist, where we have a very strong group-minded mindset. So if you could pull out the globe, the world map in your mind, our country, South Korea is a peninsula, right, coming out of China. And historically, we were invaded by so many different foreign countries, and now it's even divided, right? So South Korea is kind of like on its own kind of thing, surrounded by the ocean. So we seem very isolated from outside of the world, but so that we have a very strong sense of belonging. We always want to, there's a strong desire that we want to keep what's ours, because everything was taken away from us at some point so many times in the history. We come from a very tragic history, that when it comes to culture, we want to do what's better for the group compared to what's better for my own good. So it's kind of like the opposite thinking, right? From American perspective, it's like individualism is much stronger than what's better for the group in America. Would you agree? So it's kind of like the very obvious difference when it comes to the cultures. Also, because of the Confucius teaching, being modest, being polite, it's so important in our culture. So being overly confident or too engaging could be seen as like overbearing or impolite. of course, you can be proud of your achievement and your success, but if you overly share that excitement in Korean society, it's kind of like frowned upon. We know that you've done well, but you don't need to overshare, kind of thing. So even if you talk to someone at the highest level at a company, or if you know for sure that someone has done really well for themselves, you see those Koreans staying very modest, saying, "Oh, I'm not all that. I'm just like all of you. Like I'm not all that." So being modest is such an important characteristic when it comes to Koreans. And hurry culture. I'm sure you've seen Koreans walking super fast in the community of Kokomo. Do you feel this way? Like Koreans walk and move a little faster than Americans? Would you agree? Yeah. We just come from a very fast-paced environment. If you go to our capital city, Seoul, today and go to subway station, everyone looks like they're in a hurry, like something's on fire kind of thing. We just have that mindset of like, we need to keep this going kind of thing. So I joke that if you get into an elevator in South Korea, the close button is overly used because nobody has time to wait on that, like close. So you see that a lot, like making quick gestures, kind of like in a hurry mode. That kind of helped us to become who we are today. I mean, we kind of literally started from like scratch after Korean War. So the fast-paced thinking still is heavily involved in our day-to-day in Korea. Long-term thinking. Because after Korean War, like we started from zero, everything we do, we think that it's going to impact on my long-term goals. Like even if you talk to college level kids in Korea, they're going to think about, I need to walk on this career path so that my kids, my grandkids can have better life kind of thing. So we kind of like, this might be a little older generation kind of thing, because they like literally came from that generation where we had to start from the war outcome. So we tend to have that long-term thinking. What's going to benefit me in the future, if that makes sense. Centralized decision making, because we are coming from the group mindset. How are we benefiting the group as a whole than the individuals? We are used to centralized decision making. As small as like work environment in Korea, and it's gonna be a team lunch. We're gonna ask the boss, "Hey, boss, what do you feel like eating?" And then he says something, right? Like a spicy pork, whatever. And then everybody will agree, "Oh yeah, that sounds good. Let's all go have that," kind of thing. It's like as small as like selecting a menu. Like we kind of have that centralized decision making, because respecting elders and group-minded, collectivism, right? So when it comes to centralized decision making, it can be done quickly, right? Less people are involved, so you can make decision and move forward. Remember, like 빨리빨리, the hurry culture. And it can reduce internal conflict and the burden of making unfavorable decisions. We always gonna have someone to blame if that doesn't go well, right? But the downside is it's not gonna reflect everyone's opinions. Like in America, we tend to have like a roundtable discussion to come up with decision, right? But it just not common in Korean work environment. And sometimes that decision is not really coming from the big picture where the lower level managers or employees can have a say in that. So there's some good and bad side when it comes to centralized decision making, but this is what we're kind of used to. How am I doing? Those have been working with Koreans. Do you guys agree so far? Anything I'm deviating from? Okay. All right. So when it comes to communications and interactions, I try to think of like what's so common in here in America that is not in Korea. So smiling, especially showing your full teeth to strangers, is just so not, it's considered weird in Korea. So we have about 52 million people in a country that's size of state of Indiana. It's very populated. It's very dense. So, and it's one of the most homogenous countries where everybody looks like me. Kind of pale skin, petite figure, black hair. We don't have different styles of hair color, different styles of eye color. Everybody is like 96% is genetically Korean in South Korea. So we know like what to expect. So, and because of that, we like every time we see a stranger, we don't smile. Like imagine you're at a subway station where you're literally shoulder to shoulder. Like everyone's like on you. You don't have the sense of like wanting to smile, making small talk with strangers. Does that make sense? So when I first came to America and like at the airport, like people greet you, like showing all the teeth. I thought Americans had more teeth than Koreans because like, I truly believe that because like, oh my God, you're showing me too much teeth. That was my impression of Americans when I first came. It's just not so common in Korea. Another thing I just talked about, making small talk. When everyone's in a hurry to get to places and everybody's kind of like look the same, was raised kind of similarly, like we don't have different cultural backgrounds, everybody's pretty much the same background, right? So that we don't really have the need to make small talk. We know what the weather's like. It's a small country. Everybody knows, you know, like everybody's from a very narrow country that we know what the weather is. We know what's going on in politics. Like there's no need to talk about small talk. So to demonstrate that, here's a quick video.
Small talk in the US versus Korea.
Hi.
Hi.
This elevator is really slow, isn't it?
Yeah, it is really slow. I even got late for a meeting before because of this.
Ah, that's the worst. Taking the stairs would be faster.
Yeah, sometimes it is. I wish it was faster.
Oh, I'm getting off here. See you later. Have a great day.
Have a great day, man.
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
엘리베이터 겁나 느리네.
계단으로 가는 게 빠르겠네.
다음에 봬요.
네, 안녕하세요.
So common. We just don't talk in elevators. So imagine when you come here and you're in a new environment, you have fear of speaking English, but here comes like friendly American neighbor that comes to you and keeps asking questions about the weather, what's going on in South Korea and blah, blah, blah. Like, you might see some like frozen reactions because we're not comfortable speaking English. B, we're just not used to making small talk with strangers. But this changes when you're meeting someone with a purpose. Like if you have a meeting set up with Koreans, you're expected to talk. So you won't see this reaction. But what strangers, sorry, we're just not used to this. So just wanting you to know that. Also, speaking loudly, it's kind of frowned upon, especially at a public setting like public stations, public transportation. So we tend to stay quiet. You know, a lot of people read their books or they're just staring at their phones, right? Compared to USA, right? I mean, I love the New York City subway culture where like that's where you see talent, right? Like the raw talent. They're gonna like dance, they're gonna sing for you and stuff like that. But it's just not, it doesn't really happen in Korean setting. Like the elevator, it's like the most quiet place you'll ever go in Korea because nobody's gonna be talking. Let's talk about non-verbal cues. So Confucianism, respecting elders, respecting authority, we show that by bowing. So you might see people, Koreans bowing like a slight bow like that, or like a deep bow because they're meeting for the first time and they want to show a great level of respect. So you might see some different degrees there. And another cue would be using both hands. I'm pretty sure you can notice, like, even when I'm pointing the slides, I use my both hands. It's just how Koreans work. Even when you are sharing something as small as business cards, they're going to be using both hands because it's just sign of respect. Not that you have to do it in return, but just know that Koreans will hand something to you both hands. It's just sign of respect and politeness. Another thing, I don't know if you guys noticed from the elevator small talk video, when they were trying to talk, like, they're not really making eye contact, right? Even though there's a desire to talk to one another, we're just not used to having like a engaging eye contact socially. So you might see Koreans kind of like looking at you, but like look at the ground level or somewhere and then come back at you kind of thing. So because very prolonged eye contact could mean like I have a problem with you or I'm challenging this authority kind of thing. So it's kind of very uncommon. But in America, making that eye contact and maintaining that eye contact means I'm paying attention, right? We're engaging in this conversation and I'm showing you that I am paying attention kind of thing, right? So great example is when Korean mom's scolding a child, the child's not gonna look at the mom. But in America, when the child is not, what does mom say? Look at me when I'm talking to you, right? So very big cultural difference there. So you might see that. Another thing, covering mouth, you sometimes see that. A lot of ladies do that when they're laughing or yawning, obviously. It's kind of like sign of being polite and being feminine. So you might see like ladies or even guys like laugh with their mouth covered. Or silence. Can you guys handle silence when you're talking one-on-one conversation? Do you guys enjoy silence? So I'm totally okay with silence because in Korean culture, silence means you're thinking, you're slightly pausing to think thoroughly, or it might be a sign of hesitation, but it doesn't mean that like, don't take it as a sign that, oh, this person doesn't want to talk to me or something like that. We kind of do this a lot where we kind of need to think about, because we use a lot of nonverbal cues and indirect communication, we kind of use the silence to like, okay, what's happening? I need to read the room and come up with something to say kind of thing. So don't take that as a sign that there's a huge disagreement with you and stuff like that. Nodding could indicate acknowledgement, agreement, or understanding during a conversation. Have you noticed that when you're talking to Koreans? Not really? So I'm taking a night class right now, and I notice it's a good sized class right now, and it's like one of, I noticed the instructor tend to look at me a lot of times, and I was like, what's going on? I noticed that I'm the only one nodding when the instructor's talking, and all of my American classmates are not. And I'm like, oh, I still do this. So I'm not necessarily agreeing everything my instructor is saying, but I'm like acknowledging that I'm processing, I'm listening to you, I'm paying attention kind of thing. So nodding doesn't necessarily mean they're agreeing with you or saying yes. You might see nodding a lot. Laughing. Do you guys laugh when you're uncomfortable? Do Americans do this? Like, Sometimes? Okay. We do this a lot. And like Koreans can fool you because we're like trained to laugh when we're feeling uncomfortable. So, I mean, you can kind of see when someone's uncomfortable and laughing. It's kind of obvious laugh, right? It's not a true reflecting laugh. So you can tell, but we do this a lot. Okay. When it comes to meetings, I feel like in America, this country is big. Even the city of Kokomo is big. You don't really find the need to meet in person when things can be done over email or over phone calls. It's more transactional approach because so much things can be done over email. Would you agree? Right? But when it comes to Korea, because our country is small, we like to do business with friends than strangers. We prefer to meet in person before having a meeting, before having a phone call or doing like e-introduction. It's always the best scenario when there's a third party that knows you and the Korean counterpart that can meet all together. Like that is the best scenario because we just, especially if it's a big project where a lot of money is going to be involved, it's definitely going to take in-person training because we need to, we prefer to build relationships and build trust before signing anything. So I've mentioned that small talk with strangers, it's not common at all. But once there's a purpose that's been established, that there's going to be a meeting, there's going to be some sort of like working environment set up with you and Korean person. Make sure that you do the first like icebreaker in the beginning because it's kind of considered too cold if you just say hello, let's talk business, right? Because it's kind of like not friendly at all from Korean perspective. So couple of social conversation would be good. Yes, sir.
I just realized I've been making a mistake for quite a long time and long before the South Koreans came to town because I've been making small talk with strangers for many years at this point.
Okay, good. I mean, Koreans need practice, so keep bothering them. Yeah.
You know, anytime I see a group of them out in a restaurant, I will always go over to welcome them.
That's nice.
And they will always look at me out of the corner of their eye like, what's this guy?
Yeah.
And all I do is just say, welcome to Kokomo.
I appreciate that.
Experience.
Yeah. Keep doing what you do because Koreans will need to learn how to make small talk eventually. So yeah, I appreciate you doing that. Yeah. Where's I going with that? Yeah, keep going because I think Koreans will learn here that people are coming from different culture background, different cities, different state. People speak different languages. It's like just to being in a diverse environment. It's something Koreans will need to learn, right? Because we're from a very homogenous society that it's something that Koreans will have to get used to. And I can kind of tell how westernized a Korean person is by seeing their small talk ability, right? Like it's so easy to tell how comfortable they are making small talk. And once you are at a meeting and have like the icebreaker and you're kind of on a friendly environment, then expect the meetings to go fast moving. Koreans will like to waste no time. Let's get this done, that done. Let's set up a meeting and then move forward kind of thing. And what's so important to Koreans, because we come from the collectivism where social harmony, maintaining, just making sure everybody is lighthearted and happy, that is very important to Koreans. When even though your first meeting will not reach any decision today, that first meeting where everybody leaves like lighthearted, good impression, that would be a big success for the first meeting. So we kind of have that concept of saving face, right? We try not to embarrass ourselves. We try not to embarrass others in public. So any sign of protest, criticism, it's kind of very frowned upon. And it's usually done in a private setting, not in a first meeting especially. So because it could seem very unclear what was actually discussed and decided in the first meeting, just write a follow-up email and say, here's what I think was discussed and what was agreed upon. Do you concur? Like it just takes that follow-up email communication to make sure that you guys are on the same page. Where in America, it's almost favorable to see people speak up right there and then, right? If something on the contract seemed like unfair, they're gonna speak up, right? Like you guys would speak up, right? And pretty straightforward approach where Koreans will like maybe highlight it and go back to their office, think about it, and write a follow-up email, right? We tend to not raise any discomfort or any disagreement in person, especially in the first face-to-face meeting. So you might not, maybe you'll be surprised when you receive an email like that. Hey, in the email, in the meeting, I noticed that this clause in the contract, like, can we revisit that because it's kind of unfair for us? Like, Koreans will never say that to your face there and then because, like I said, like maintaining harmony is so important. Does that make sense? Okay, let's take a look at some email practices. In US, a good email will be concise, short, and direct. Would you agree? In Korea, what's considered a good email is it has a clear message with a positive note to enhance their relationship, show respect, and also make the recipient feel good and warm. It takes a skill to write a good email in Korea. It's so, that's why have you guys received an email, like professional email from Koreans before, Korean nationals? Not yet. It's gonna be long, let me tell you. You're gonna feel good. And you may also think like, oh, like that's a little too touchy or that's a little too personal. Here's what I mean. Here's a culture difference when it comes to emails. So in US, you'll see, hello John, hello Mark, hello David. Simple. In Korea, you see, dear Mr. Smith, because we like to use honorifics. Instead of using first name, we like to use last name and the title. Like, dear Vice President Smith. You might see that a lot. Also, in US, the greeting could be just simple as one sentence. Hope this email finds you well. You might see this from Korean person. The weather is getting colder these days. Hope you're staying warm and healthy so you don't get sick. Or hope you and your family are well. Or I hope you're having a productive day. We just have the need to be polite, just checking on your well-being, even though I may be cold calling or cold emailing you. We just have that kind of sense of greeting. Greeting needs to be, you have to mean well, you have to make sure you're checking on their well-being kind of thing. And when you're finishing an email, US is as simple as sincerely, best regards, right? In Korea, you may see this. It's a cloudy day, but I hope your mood is cheery. Or I hope you stay warm with a hot meal for dinner. Like something very specific, right? Or it's Monday again, but the good weather seems to help. Hope you have an energetic week. Like, so this translated in Korean, if I receive an email like that, I'll be like, oh wow, this guy like took time to write all that to make me feel good, right? But when I see this translated to English like that, I'm like, oh, this might not work for American mindset because it seems a little like too kind, right? So you might see that. And when you receive an email like this, of course you don't have to go that length to reciprocate. If you want to, yeah, check on their family as well. If you really care, if you have time to type that all out. But sometimes Koreans feel like American, how they communicate, how they send an email is too short, too business oriented, and a little too cold. They didn't ask if my family was doing well, kind of thing, right? So it just takes that, we take that one level to check on everybody's well-being, kind of thing. Okay, this concept is going to confuse a lot of Americans, but Koreans too. We don't like about our culture when we tend to prefer having indirect communication styles. So this is like American Western culture. They usually just go straight to say no, right? I don't agree with you, it's a no, right? But in Korea, because we have that need to maintain the whole harmony and the good feeling, social harmony, we don't want to, I don't want to be that person that is going to be so rude to say no to your face right away. That's why we go this tangent, like, oh, like blame, like I'm gonna blame my family, I'm gonna blame the weather, I'm gonna blame whatever it is to tell you an implied no, right? I mean, do you guys do this when you get like a cold calling, like sales call? Like, do you guys say just no right away, or do you find oh, you do? Good on you. I need to learn that instead of coming up with a bunch of excuses. So we still have that culture. So. Because of this, like reading the room is such an essential skill. Like if I can tell the Korean person wants to say no, I need to read the room by thinking, oh, the person wants to say no but can't to my face. Like we kind of have that skill set where we kind of have to learn how to read someone's body language, the non-verbal cues and stuff like that. I mean, is this frustrating? Yes, but I didn't choose this culture. I was just born with it, right? It just, like, the maintaining social harmony is so important. Yes, ma'am.
So if we were to notice that they seem to be wanting to say no, is there something that can be done to make it easier for them? To just say no, and that's okay, we'll move on. And
yeah, I would. One way to kind of soften that would be like, do you want to think about that and email me? I'm sure the email will have excuses, like it will be paragraphs, but give them some time to come up with no on their own. I think they'll be very beneficial. Yeah, great question. Okay, here's what I mean. This is happening in a like informal setting as well.
Even though Korean people may like something, every now and then they have the tendency to pretend that they don't. Let's take a look at some examples. Here, we have a group of friends. We are working on a school assignment.
안녕.
어.
배고프지? 야, 먹으라고 도넛 좀 사왔어.
센스인데 배고픈 줄 어떻게 알고?
밥 먹을 시간 됐으니까 사왔지. 너도 좀 먹어.
아니야 괜찮아. 먹고 해 양도 많은데. 아니야 니네 먹어.
우리끼리 먹자.
그래.
If you want to eat donuts, you could just say so. It was stupid of him to reject their offer. It seems like he actually wanted to eat the donuts.
This happens between friends too. So he clearly wanted a donut, but he said no, right? And then they asked again, like, there's enough for everybody, you can have one. And then he said no again. He just didn't want to be a burden in case there wasn't enough for everybody. But if there was like a dozen of donuts, right? And it's clear that it's enough for 3 people, then he might have gotten one. But I have a feeling he was like, you know, like she spent the money and like they clearly look like a couple and I don't want to bother them. They should have donuts themselves, kind of thing. So this happens. So this kind of happens, like, let me give you an example. So for example, my parents are living in Korea, but they come to visit me a couple times and I take her out for shopping. And I see a really nice sweater that looks like her style, that would be like perfect fit for her. So I ask her, do you want me to get this for you, Mom? And she would say, oh no, it's okay. And then I'm like, oh no, like it looks like it'll be really nice addition to your collection. Do you want this? And she'll be like, oh no, I don't want you to spend your hard-earned money. And then I'll be like, but I want to get this for you. And she'll be like, oh no, forget it. And she walks away, right? And I secretly get it for her, gift wrap it, hide it, bring it, right? And we're home. And then I present it to her and she's like, how did you know I wanted this? Mom, just say you wanted it, right? So we kind of have that concept in like close relationship with mom and daughter too. So to check to see if it was a truly no, like the 3rd time might be the charm, right? Like if you ask one more time, like they might say, oh, if it's not too big of a trouble, then I'll take that donut, kind of thing. So I apologize for this cultural characteristic. It could be very annoying and time consuming, but we come from like a very, like being modest is important kind of thing. So like we have this concept. So again, being modest is so important that giving and receiving positive feedback can be difficult too. I've used this example before where in my 8th grade, math class was my favorite subject, and during the counselor parent conference, my counselor was telling my mom, Sue is doing really well in the math class. She's really excelling. And my mom was like, oh no, she's still stupid. She has a long way to go. That's how moms accept compliments. So like, even though she's proud of me and she wants to share the whole world that like Sue's doing really well in the math class, she must remain humble. It's just our culture, right? Like we're gonna downplay that compliment. I know what you said is true, but I'm not gonna like accept that right away, kind of thing. So like the feedback session between employee-employer, they may focus on weaknesses because we're not gonna be like focusing on praises so that your head's gonna get bigger. I was telling you I'm taking an evening class, so recent test I got 79%, so I was dying to tell my older sister, I just took a test and I got 97%. And then she goes, what happened to that 3%? I'm like, why are you being such a mom? Like that's a pretty good score. But my sister, who's been here 20 plus years, she still has that concept. Like we must focus on our weaknesses so we can improve for the next time, kind of thing. So criticism, it's best to be done privately. We have that huge concept of like maintaining good social status in public, that if you must have some criticism to be shared, it's best to do it in private setting. Negotiations, we can quickly go through this. The social harmony and mutual respect between parties is the most important. You may not reach a decision today at that first negotiation meeting, just know that, and it's gonna take some time because like I said, Koreans like to do business with friends, not strangers. But I love the concept of how Americans approach, where they, we tend to freely say what we think. Compared to Korean culture, I think that's true, and it's so clear what the agenda of that meeting is going to be and whether or not they're going to reach a decision. So I just love this meme so much. Got to speak my mind and keep it real. So you will see a huge culture difference when you're in a negotiation situation. So how does Koreans come to a conclusion on that negotiation? There's going to be a meal. There could be a drinking session, because we have the concept of I won't get to know you unless I have a meal and have a drink with you, kind of thing. Like social, it's such a common thing. A lot of coworkers go out for drinks and dinner together after work. You see that very commonly. I mean, COVID killed a lot of culture after that, but we still have this mindset that that you won't really get to know someone until you eat together. So if you, Koreans can drink, but then it doesn't mean that you have to keep up with their level of alcoholism, okay? You can always say no. You can order water that looks like our soju, which is rice wine anyway. So we can't tell the difference. If you must excuse yourself, just use your religious reason or your health reason. It's kind of like frowned upon if you say something like, "Oh, that thing is poison." Koreans know it's poison, but we drink it anyway, right? So there might be a one way to make a really close relationship with the parties that you're trying to get close to. So I told you about we don't take small talks, right? We don't make small talk, but when we are at a setting where I have to get to know each other, Koreans might ask you a super personal question, especially your age. Here's why. In Korea, we have a two level of language. We have one formal that we speak to in a formal setting, and someone that's older than me, right? We have that social hierarchy where we respect elders. And if you're younger than me, I may use the informal language level. So figuring out someone's age is so important in Korea. So they might have that mindset. Can you ever tell how old Koreans are? Do you find it hard to tell? It's same for us.
I can't tell how old people from the U.S.
Yes. It's the same for white people too. I can never tell the age. So, so you might get that question a lot. Like, how old are you? Oh, you're younger. Oh, good for you. Or you're older. Then they might do the bow to show respect. Or, are you married? If you're not married, they may ask you, why are you not married? What's wrong with you? Or, they may kind of joke on you. Or how many children you have, or what city you were born, what state you were born. They're kind of trying to gather personal information about you, so we can find the common ground, so I can feel more connected to you, kind of thing. So you may find a couple of questions super personal, super offensive, but this is how Koreans like to make connections. Even this used to be the talk of the conversation. Do you know your best friend's blood type? Do you know your own blood types? Okay, so in Korea, this is it's kind of like a social thing where we all knew our own blood type, and we categorized the 4 blood type with personality traits. This is how it's so commonly used, where if someone's being so timid, we might say, is your blood type A? Because you're being type A right now, kind of thing. It's so funny how we used to divide people in 4 categories. But during COVID, it developed to MBTI, the Myers-Briggs type indicator. It's a good thing there are more types to categorize people. There's 16 types. But if you ask Korean, what is your MBTI? They know exactly what their MBTI is. Like, so this became such a viral in Korean community that this is kind of being used as like icebreaker. This is being used as like how to make small talk with strangers. So yeah, do your test online test today and figure it out. So you might find something about yourselves. It's a kind of fun thing to do, but yeah, it's you might get that from Koreans. One thing to note is when Koreans are speaking English, we do learn English as a subject in public schools, but it's mostly, it's very grammar and reading, writing heavy than speaking and listening. So you may find Koreans, when they speak English, it might sound too direct, too harsh. Like instead of, like in the email too, or in person, instead of saying, could you please explain, like I didn't understand that, they may say, what do you mean in the email? They meant to say, could you please explain, blah, blah, blah. But we're not just at that English level where I can ask politely, if you will. Also, avoid asking don't you or aren't you question, because how we answer in Korean language is exact opposite. Like, don't you know this? How we answer is, yes, I don't know this. What? I still get confused with this. So when BJ asked me a question, like don't you, aren't you question, and I say no, and he would say, is it no, yes, or yes, no? Like, English is hard. And so try to use simplified languages, or avoid using slangs, right? Only Americans will know all the slang words, not Koreans that just came here. Also, there are a couple of sounds that it just doesn't exist in Korea, which is the V sound, R, the, Z, like zebra, F sound. We don't have that sound. We have similar sound, but we don't have the F sound. So the common mistakes that a lot of Koreans do is switching L with R, like we eat lice, they may tell you, but they meant to say we eat rice. The R sound is super hard to Korean, so it's something I needed to learn as well. Or they may say thank you when they wanted to say thank you. The TH sound, we're not used to that at all. Or misusing the articles the and a on. English is hard. Do you agree? Do you love your language? No, but you're an expert at it. And another interesting thing is Korean society, we use a lot of English words, but we Koreanize it so that it's easier for us to pronounce. So words like email, we use that word too, but we say email. It's very like hard, like email. Camera, we say camera. We don't have the R sound, so you won't hear it when we say camera, camera. Notebook, 서비스. We don't have the V or R sound, so we say 서비스. Coffee, we say 커피. We have the P sound, but not F sound. So a lot of Koreans might talk to you, and they might use some English words, but just know that it might be a Koreanized version of it, and they might be confused, like, I'm saying the English words, why are you not understanding it, right? So we have a lot of those usages. Something quick, facial expression comparison. So emojis that we once used before the Apple iPhone emojis, happy, sad, surprise, we've all used these in text before, right? So there's a whole study out there how Westerners use these emojis. Look at the Eastern version. What do you see? Right. So Westerners, when they express their emotions, they tend to use the whole face to convey emotion, where Easterners, we like to use eyes more and mouth less. Like notice it's usually a dot or just a straight line. So to convey that message to you. This kindergarten, just random Google image I found of a graduation photo, like everyone's lively, like bubbly and smiling. Here's a Korean version. Everyone's like uniform, like it's almost like they announced to parents the kids must wear a white shirt with jeans and they shouldn't smile in front of camera. No, it's just how we take photos. Like we kind of have to force ourselves to smile when we take photos now. So like it starts early. This is kindergarten graduation photos, very stoic, no emotions. Wanted to quit.
On that one.
Yes.
With the picture of the kids.
Yeah.
The young lady in the upper left, is she going to be getting in trouble for being too expressive?
Which one?
One with the puppy face on her shirt.
Top left. Very left?
Well, not the young lady, not the adult, the child.
Is she smiling?
No, look at her shirt.
Oh, her shirt. Oh, that's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But they can't smile.
It is unfortunate, isn't it? Yeah.
Looks like they can't smile without standing out.
Right. I didn't notice that. Yeah. I mean, I do see some kids with labels there, but I think, yeah, it's not too overly standing out, so I think that's considered okay. Speaking of dress code, Koreans, if you see like Koreans in public, in professional settings, it's mostly like dark navy color, not too crazy colors, right? This is usually how guys wear at work, right? It's kind of similar to America, might be a little more formal, I would say. And ladies, pretty like modest looking. We don't really show skin even during the summer. Like it's kind of like not considered professional, and these are the looks that like Koreans frown upon when they're showing up to work, like flashy colors that really hurt your eyes. Because again, everybody looks the same, everybody dresses very similarly. If you show up to work like this, you are gonna stand out, and you'll be known as that person with like flashy fingernails, right? So we kind of want to like fit into the social norm and stuff like that. So it's something that you won't really see. Okay, my bearded friends. So in Korea, like genetically, like a lot of Koreans cannot grow like full beard like Americans can do. I mean, you guys have beautiful beard, but when Koreans try to grow out beard, it might be like spotty, like not full, like the masculine look that they want to achieve. So it's considered kind of like, I'm sorry, I have to write unhygienic. Like you look beautiful with your beard. I didn't mean to say like you look dirty if you have beard. It's just that in Korea, because guys' beard can be spotty, it just looks like you've given up on life. Like it's just not, are you going through some trauma? Like, are you going through something? Because it just looks not well groomed, well treated. So unless they can grow full beard, it's considered like freshly shaven is the way to go. But your beard, yeah, beautifully groomed. Wanted to throw a quick social media or apps that Koreans like to use. Kakao, you might see this a lot on a lot of Koreans' phones. 47 million Korean users, so it's over 90% of our whole population use this. So this is what I use to communicate with my family members in Korea. We can do messaging, we can do picture sharing, video sharing, we can do face calls for free. This is a free app. And now the company has expanded to other things, like there's a Google Pay type of app called Kakao Pay, Kakao Taxi. Like Koreans don't really use Uber. Like Kakao Taxi is the most dominating one. Kakao Map. I've heard Google Maps sucks to use in Korea because we just don't allow Google that permission to look what's going on in South Korea. So I see a lot of complaints about Google services. So Kakao Map is the preferred one. If once you download it and have some friends, you can send videos, and everything in Korea needs to be cute. Let me just tell you. So you can send like cute little emojis, stuff like that. And people use this between coworkers. If there's a small group of coworkers that need to communicate quickly, instead of using WhatsApp or group text message like iMessage, they prefer creating like a group chat on Kakao. And it's just super, everybody uses it. So it's something that you guys might consider using if you're interested. Instead of using like Google Translate app, we like to use our own Papago. It's really smart AI translator that we use. You can text, you can voice record to put the message that you want to translate. You can scan a document to see, you know, what the translated version looks like. So feel free to use that. And I cannot leave you without teaching you how to say hello in Korea. So to say hello, the polite way, we say 안녕하세요. Can you guys say it with me? 안녕하세요. And how Koreans say is with a little bow, like 안녕하세요. Can you say it? 안녕하세요. 하세요. Yep. And to say thank you, we say 감사합니다. Can you say it with me? 감사합니다. And of course, we like to thank you with a slight bow as well. So we say 감사합니다. Say it with me one more time. 감사합니다. Awesome. So I'm teaching you all of this, not for you don't need to bow every time you see Koreans. Just know that Koreans will bow to you to show respect. So with that, do you guys have any questions from the conversation we had or from your own experience or remarks? David, you have something for me? No? No? Yes.
I'm from the Literacy Coalition at Howard County, and one of the things that we are wanting to do is approach people who speak English as a second language. One of my questions would be, how do you approach someone like that without being like disrespectful or being like, you need to, speak better English or anything like that? I want it to be like, this is an education experience, not a necessity for assimilation. This is a way for you to learn English and build your skills.
What do you do for marketing?
As marketing, we have social media. I just went to Mr. K Barbecue and brought some pamphlets because I met one of the cashiers named June, and he was trying to teach one of the servers just common sayings and things like this. So I approached them, but I felt rude. Like, I didn't want to be interrupt their conversation, but I also wanted to provide a resource. Yeah. So just little things like that, and attending things like this to, let the public know what we do. Sure. I think handing out the written material where they can take time and make decision, I think they'll be preferable. And if you get to know one Korean and make sure they know what your program is all about, it's going to spread. Oh, yeah. We already have people show up. One of the CEOs. Oh, great. Yeah. Fantastic. So, yeah. It's such a small, it's kind of like, if you like to share a message, just target one Korean and the whole community will know, kind of thing. So you can, if you have that, the flyer readily available or shareable via phone, I think they'll be easy for Korean to share with their folks, like using Kakao. So if you have that digital form, like a photo, ready to share, I think that'll be a great way to do. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, ESL, love it. Any other questions? Was this helpful for you guys? Yeah?
David, you knew everything.
No, I did not.
Did you learn something new today?
I always learn new ways to respect incredibly long, detailed emails.
That's beautiful.
So I deeply appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Sorry I keep picking on you. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sue.